everyone. Welcome to Live with Leah. I'm here today with a few gentlemen, and hopefully someone else will be joining us a little later. We're going to be talking about the gaps in the family court system. This is an ongoing thing that we like to do here because this is definitely a topic that is affecting our society, especially with what's going on right now in the world. So I wanted to welcome back Bo, Corey, and Dawn. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here. Bo, did you want to start off with what would we like to discuss today with regards to the family court system?
Thank you, Leah. Basically, what we want to talk about, I've been on your show before. We were talking about parental alienation and going through courts. And everybody's different. You know, some fathers are strong. They know how to do a good fight. They're cool, calm, collected. They know their laws. There's some other fathers that are not. You know, they're more emotional and they're just getting into the system. And they're at the stage where they're thinking, you know, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? You know, am I that bad of a person that, you know, my child is being held against me? So basically, we want to be able to discuss the court system. We want to discuss about our personal experiences of what's worked. Now, one of us has a lawyer. One of us doesn't have a lawyer, self-representative, and another one is self-represented and has won his battle in two different provinces. So collectively, we should be able to give a little bit of knowledge to other fathers that are going through this, especially ones that are going through this fresh, and they can see the struggles that we've gone through and learn from that and educate them that what happens in court is very important, and as well, the judge that you're in front of matters as well. Now, sometimes you are able to find a judge that is actually not biased and goes from what's right, what's wrong, listens and hears your evidence. And sometimes you run into other judges where, you know, because they're all in the same circle, they may favor a particular lawyer and it would go one way. So that's basically the synopsis of what we're going to talk about or want to discuss. But it's open for everything, you know. Oh, you're muted.
I am. Did you, so do you think that, you know, is it difficult for judges, especially with our society today with social media and all those types of things? Do you think it's difficult for them to be biased? And do you think it's you know, to be that third party, that person that's supposed to not take sides with anybody when, you know, there is so much social media, there is so much influence these days?
Well, that's true. I mean, there is a lot going on, but that's the whole point. You're a judge because you should be a professional and you need to read and hear what the evidence is and make decisions and judgments on that. You're not supposed to be biased in a sense where, oh, I favor this judge or this lawyer, so I'm going to go with what he says. Or I see someone that's self-representing and he looks grungy, so I'm not going to give him the time of day. No, you shouldn't be biased on that, you know, because everyone is at a different stage of their life. And that's your job as a judge. And if you do your job properly, then justice will be served.
Absolutely. Corey, what do you think? You've been in a couple of different courtrooms. What do you think? Is it difficult for a judge these days to be that third party, that bias, that person looking in from the outside?
I would have to say it probably would be because, you know, as a judge, you can't use emotion as a factor. You can't use my emotion or her emotion, you know, like it doesn't matter how upset or excited or whatever I would get, you know, you can't play into that. You know, like my ex is a narcissist, and I mean, they know how to play emotions. They know how to use emotions. And, you know, as a judge, you got to be able to see past that. And honestly, you have to leave your emotions out of it when you're in the courtroom. I mean, really, that's the only thing you can do. I mean, every appearance I made in court, whether it be in person or on the phone or on webcam, I never showed emotion until I actually won. And then, you know, there was a lot of emotion. You know, there were waterworks. There was a lot. But when things don't go your way, you can't get mad. You have to ask the right questions when things don't go your way. Collectively, like in a smart way, raise doubt. If a judge is saying no to you for whatever reason, in my experience, anyways, I would raise doubt without being emotional. I wouldn't get upset. I wouldn't get angry. And you can't expect a judge to make his decisions based on emotions, because quite frankly, he doesn't have them. He doesn't have them. I couldn't imagine being a judge in the court system today. Like I've seen a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people who have gone through what I went through, male and female. And, I couldn't imagine being a judge and have to try to actually weed through what's real and what's BS.
Yeah. With our society today, it's really difficult because, there's so many, how can I say, there's so many liberties being granted these days, but yet there's no clear cut, this is wrong, this is right, this is gray, and this is black, and this is white. We're getting more and more, I wouldn't really say progressive, but I guess that would be the way to say it. Especially with these titles that I've seen, lately, they don't want you to be called mom and dad. It's parent number one and parent number two, or birthing parent if you're the female. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I actually, yeah, it's not. Anyway, Dawn, would you like to weigh in on this one? Do you think it's difficult for judges to be impartial, to be, that third person kind of looking in when, they're the guy that they were just out for dinner with last night, who's, their best friend is sitting at the one table, and, maybe somebody such as your lawyer, who maybe doesn't know this judge very well, is sitting at the next table?
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of difficult, because if they're friends, in my opinion, they shouldn't be in the same courtroom together, because then that's a conflict. But it happens, and it happens all the time. Yeah, in my situation with the lawyer, she's really good to me. She gives me advice on, hey, when we come to court, because we have court video chat, the Zoom thing. She's like, don't have posters behind you, just have like you're sitting in your living room like Corey is right now, just have family pictures behind you. Don't dress grungy if you can help it. Look like you're clean shaven. Try to present yourself as a professional, like you've been here before, even if you haven't, in my case. So I simply wear a nice collared shirt. I don't have it done up with a tie or nothing, and then I just sit in my living room while we're doing court. And again, don't wear a baseball cap. Be respectful. Don't talk unless you're talked to or asked a question by the lawyer or by the judge. Because I was on one of these Zoom chats, and I was waiting, and the one gentleman just kept interrupting the judge and kept interrupting and interrupting. And at one point, the judge was just like, kick him out of the room. He's not going to get what he wants. He's done. Because he can't take 2 minutes out of his day to shut his mouth and listen to what the judge has to say. In my opinion, yeah, it's hard to differentiate between your friends, because even myself, when there's conflict between two friends and I try to be the mediator, how do you not pick sides with somebody that you're really, really good friends with and someone that you're okay friends with? Or you're just, business buddies or something. But at the same time, as a judge, you got to pull yourself out of that, because you got to be professional. You got to, like Boas said, you got to listen to the facts. Read the people. Like, you got to read, because even if you're not showing emotion, you're still showing body language emotion. Like, you can't just, because what impression does this give when you're in court? I don't care, whatever, I don't care. So you just got to be aware of what you're doing. You can't just be, if you're getting mad, you get all puffed up. You just got to relax, breathe. If something's upsetting you, breathe and ask your lawyer, if your lawyer's right there, hey, can you explain this? Because I've had to do it. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, ever. Like, give me a book and I have no clue. Put me on the street in the middle of the bush or something. Yeah, I'll find my way out, or I'll live there. You know what I mean? But if you don't understand, ask your lawyer. Whisper, hey, what was that? I don't understand. then your lawyer will either ask the judge, can we have a little more definition or explanation of what you just said? If you don't ask questions, you're not going to get what you want. And if you don't get what you want, you're obviously going to get upset and not understand anything. So it's that give and take. And yeah, the judge can't be picky. He can't go, oh, that's my best friend. I just, played 18 rounds of golf with that guy. So whatever he says. If you get a judge like that, you can request to have a new judge. And it's a process, but I'm going through the process right now of getting a new lawyer for a different thing because there was a conflict. I found some things out about that lawyer, and I can't justify having him represent me. So we're going through that process. Again, if you got to do that, do it. Don't take chances with a lawyer that isn't listening to you. You lean over and say, hey, what's that? And he just ignores you. That's not the right lawyer for you. You got to be able to call your lawyer or email. I email my family lawyer all the time. How's things going? I just thought of this. What's it mean? And within a day and a half, I've got an answer via email, whether I've called or texted or whatever. That's the kind of lawyer you want, one that will take time out of their busy day, because you know very well that they're busy, to answer your question as well as keep things rolling. I don't know. I just went on a big tangent there.
No, that's great. And again, in this day and age of social media, especially right now with what's going on in the world, even the court system has moved to an online platform because of having to do this. So, presentation and appearance is even more important because you're not in front of the judge. It's not like, oh, today is court day and you have, X amount of time to prepare and your makeup is just right or whatever is just right, and you're actually kind of comfortable in your own home and it's easy to forget and that type of thing. So absolutely very, very important. And all of you brought up a good point that I kind of, the theme I'm thinking of is, and we even discussed a little bit of this prior to coming on, is the education part. The education part of between lawyer and client has really left something to be desired. For instance, as we were saying before we came on the air, that if a child has a lawyer, they're not educating that child. They're not actually sitting down with them and going, okay, this is the process. This is what's going to happen. And we need to discuss what it is that you want, because ultimately I'm here for you. I'm not here for mom. I'm not here for dad. I'm here for you. So I find that especially these days, how things are going, that discussion, that educational piece is really lacking. So in representation, having representation, sorry, Dawn, because you have representation versus Corey and certain situations, Bo, you have had to represent yourself. How important is that educational piece, that let's have a discussion about what we want going forward, how we're going to get there? Maybe we'll start with Corey because you represented yourself.
Well, I had one advantage that a lot of fathers out there may not have had. When I got together with my ex 8 years ago, she was going through a custody battle with her ex-husband and the 3 kids that they had together, who she lost, by the way. She lost those 3 kids. So I was, when it came my turn, I was very much aware of what she would probably try to do and say. Basing on what she tried to do and say with him. I mean, he spent $160,000 on a lawyer fighting for custody for his 3 kids, and it took him 4.5 years to succeed. And I simply didn't have that money. So I said to myself, okay, do what he did. Pay attention to what she did. And when it came time to when court opened, because all this happened when COVID first hit last year in 2020 there in March, when court reopened in July, the number one rule that I found, and it worked for me, is you always want to get there first. It's a race, and you got to get there first. Whenever possible, be the applicant, not the respondent. And quite frankly, knowing her past, I was very convinced that I knew exactly what she was going to try to say and exactly what she was going to try to do and exactly what she was going to try to accuse me of. So being the applicant, being there first, I said it before she could. So when it did come out of her mouth or her lawyer's mouth, it was already water under the bridge in the judge's eyes, I think, because I stood there and said, hey, you know what? I'm not a perfect parent. I did this and I was wrong, and I did that and I was wrong. And so when she tried to play the abuse card and the victim card and all the cards that she tried to play, I had already answered to it before she made the accusation. It was kind of like I don't know if you've ever seen 8 Mile, the rap battle in the end. She had nothing to say. I said it all before she could. So 5 court appearances, I had full custody of my children, and my application was weekend access. That's how badly she shot herself in the foot. So I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, because I can't really speak to everyone's experiences. But like I said, the biggest thing is if you can, it's like a race. Get there first. Be the first one to speak. And if you know her, if you know your partner, speak before, make the accusation or the allegation and prove your innocence before she even gets to do it. It got to the point when I was fighting in BC after I won in Alberta, she ran away to BC with the kids and again played the abuse cards. Oh, I'm fleeing domestic abuse. And she got an EPO on me and my kids. I couldn't even go to BC to get them, even though I had full custody. So then I had to fight with the judge in BC. And the first words out of my mouth with the judge in BC is, they're not even supposed to be there, Your Honor. There was no mobility application. I never had an opportunity to speak about the best interests of the child. And every sentence I spoke, I always started with the words parental alienation. She tried so many things. She tried to make an application for views of the child, heard by a different judge. First thing out of my mouth when we spoke to the different judge is, you're the wrong judge. The judge that we spoke with the first 2 times has taken this case on his own. Whenever we have a court date, it's set for the day he is on duty, not the day you are on duty. Ma'am, you're not the right judge. You're not supposed to be hearing this. And the judge would agree. A lot of people don't think of doing that. They think that when you're facing a judge, that's it. That's who you're dealing with. And it's not. And I didn't even make an application to have a different judge. I just simply said, Your Honor, no disrespect, you are the wrong person for this job. I will have to spend more time educating you on the history than we will have to argue over what's in said affidavit. And the judge would agree. She said, she said, I don't want anything to do with this. Let's reassign this, send it back to the original judge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I tried to always be on top. She tried so many underhanded tricks, and I had an answer to them before the court even started. So when it came time to speak, and because I self-represented, I got to speak a lot. I spoke my rights immediately, and I always led off with parental alienation. Of course, if you allow the children to have a submission in court of the views of the child, not represented by a lawyer, how can you not view that as alienation? I've had no contact with my children for 11 months. There have been accusations of physical stuff between her and her hubby or boyfriend that I can't prove. They're only allegations that I've heard. But because I've had no contact with my children, Your Honor, how am I there to protect them? The interests of the child. How can I protect my children from him if I'm not allowed to have access to my children because she makes allegations that have yet to be proven in court? How can you treat me as a guilty man and deny me access to my children because she says so, because she says I did, but deny me the ability to protect my children because I don't have proof of what's happening in their household today. If I have to prove, if the burden of proof is on me, why isn't the burden of proof on her? So every time I argued my right, the judge agreed. Every single time. It was never a question. And that's what I found was my advantage to self-representing. Because quite honestly, I don't think any lawyer out there, and I'm not an egomaniac here, but I don't think any lawyer out there would have represented me and my rights as well as I did myself. Because I always questioned. Every single time her lawyer or herself made a response, because I was always there first as the applicant. And every time she tried to make an application, I would question it. I would always use the words alienation. And how can you say there was no alienation when you denied me my children for 11 months and then tried to use them in court at age 6 and 7 against their own father? How can you not say to a judge, that's alienation? And the judge agreed. And, you know, I hate using the words easy because it wasn't easy. But when I sit back and I listen to everybody else's story, my fight was the easiest thing in the world that I ever thought I would have to deal with when it came time to getting full rights to my children. I wasn't even asking for custody. I was simply asking for the ability to protect my children. Everything she did, because I preached alienation, she shot herself in the foot. And at the end of the day, she was claiming, I'm fleeing abuse. I need an EPO against him. The children need an EPO against him, and so on and so on and so on. And I screamed burden of proof so loud that at the end of the day, the judge simply said to Crystal, you feel you need an EPO between you and him, and I agree because it's a high volatile situation, you can have it. However, I do not believe after all this time that any allegations that you are making of abuse hold any water because of the fact that 11 months later, you using the abuse card after you already lost in Alberta, so you ran to another province. So therefore, I'm going to grant you your application for an emergency protection order between you and Corey. There's no contact allowed, but I am not taking jurisdiction of the custody of the children. Those children are residents of Alberta. You have them here illegally with no mobility order in place. Therefore, because there's already an order in Alberta for full custody to the father, and he gave her 5 days to return the children to me. 5 days later, she didn't. She was put in jail. And I went to BC and picked up my children.
Good for you. Good for them. Oh, you know, that kind of makes me happy because that is a huge reluctance to put the mom in jail. And a lot of fathers have come and said, well, you know, I went to the judge and I proved that she was wrong. I proved that she was lying. I proved all of this. And they were so reluctant to put mom in jail. They would actually even look at people and say, what do you want me to do? Put mom in jail? Yes, actually I do. Because if that was me, you would have put me in jail. So why is this difference? Absolutely.
Well, let me add just a little tidbit to that. She violated 3 orders in Alberta. The first order was for weekend access. The second order was a repeat for weekend access, police enforceable. And the third order was children to be returned to me back in October, full custody. She violated all 3 of those orders and has 3 warrants in Alberta. So when she fled to BC and played the abuse card, and I made the judge realize that, hey, look at the pattern, look at the history, look at when she did this versus when she says this. And the judge agreed that she was, you know, playing the system. When the kids didn't arrive on Wednesday at 7 p.m., I phoned the RCMP in BC where she was living, and they said, okay, well, you know, first of all, there's a time change. Second of all, there's a storm. Let's give it a couple hours. And a couple hours later, they contacted me, and I was surprised they did, but they did. She was just about to end her shift, and she said, has there been any word? And I said, no. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to pass this to my partner or colleague, whatever. and we'll look into it, and you'll be hearing back from him very shortly. And within an hour, he called me and says, okay, I know where they are. I know where they live. And he basically showed up at her doorstep. Kids were asleep already, and said to Crystal, she said, you have a warrant for your arrest for violation of. I'm placing you under arrest. And he arrested her. And the condition, and then he released her immediately. The conditions of her release were that the children were to be at the police station in that town by 4:30 p.m. the following day. And I literally jumped in my car that night and drove through the night to be where she was on time. And the conditions of her release were simple. If the children aren't in the police station by 4:30, she will go to jail. So the children were there. And, you know, I mentioned this off air. I just want to mention it again. When I showed up at the police station to pick up my children, they hid behind a counselor. Their school or their guidance counselor or whatever, they weren't in school. They were seeing a counselor though. And that was another card she was trying to play. She was trying to use the counselor to gain momentum in court, and the judge wouldn't hear her. But anyways, the counselor was at the police station with the children because, you know, there's no contact between her and I. So she dropped them off and left, and then I showed up. They hid behind the counselor. They were terrified to see me. I brought my mother with me. They were terrified to see my mother. When, you know, I finally coaxed them to come with me, and we got in the car and drove away, we went for supper. And the first thing out of my little girl's mouth in the restaurant, she's 7 years old, she says to the waitress, please call CPS. I'm being taken against my will. I mean, if that's not parental alienation, I don't know what is. But, you know, within a matter of, I think it was about 4 hours from when I picked them up to when we checked into the hotel, I was once again, Dad, and I'm sorry, and I missed you, and hugs and kisses. And it was a fight on who got to share Dad's bed at the hotel that night between the two girls. You know, like judges, yeah, they are very, even the police, the police here were absolutely useless. They are very reluctant to take actual legal action against the mother. I mean, even when you have an enforceable order, they don't enforce it because, oh, what's it going to do to the child if mom gets arrested? But they don't have a problem putting Dad in handcuffs at all. No problem whatsoever. And the only reason that when I contacted the police in BC where she was I had 5 court orders. 5, not just one, 5 court orders that I showed the officer that she had violated. So they saw the pattern themselves, you know. And I did speak from the heart when I talked to the officer about the alienation and the game she played. And because I had the orders to back them up, I mean, I went as far as I'll send you every affidavit that her lawyer made in court if you would like to see them to the officer. And like, no, the orders are fine. And the fact that she violated so many orders and the pattern on which she did what she did, at the end of the day, the officer did not hesitate. Corey, are you going to be here tomorrow? Yes, I will. What time will you be here by? I will be there between 2 and 5. Okay. Crystal, I will release you if you have the children in the police station by 4:30. And if you don't, we're going to come back and get you, and we're going to put you in jail. And that was the end of it. Haven't heard from her since.
You know, unfortunately, and Keith is correct here, the cops do need to do their jobs. I have witnessed it personally myself, where you know, an order is police enforceable, and they decide, oh well, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to get involved. We're not going to go and get the children, or we're not going to, you know, they just decide not to do their job, and that's really, really too bad. Dawn, you had legal representation. So do you think that educational piece, as we were talking about, is sort of missing these days from proceedings?
As far as like for the kid is involved, yeah, it's completely missing. 100%. There's no one there to explain to them what's going on, or ask them how they feel, or what's your thought on what should happen. Like nothing, not a thing. My child has, fortunately, we got a lawyer for her because it's free. So there's somebody there to represent her in all of this, which is good. So I feel a little better about that. But my child is still too young to understand what's going on. But I get to see her via like, you know, phone messenger, video chat thing. So I'm constantly asking her, oh, how you feeling? How's your day going? You know, just asking her feelings. What are your feelings today? Oh, you're upset today? Do you want to tell daddy why you're upset today? You know, and we have that discussion, whether the person holding the phone for her likes it or not. That's what I'm talking to her about, because I feel that her explaining her feelings or having those feelings is legitimate, and to recognize them for her makes her feel better about having those feelings, so that she can help understand what she's feeling and why she's feeling it, instead of just bottling it up and, you know, becoming one of those psychopath murderers in the future. You know what I mean? That's kind of extreme, but you know what I'm saying. It's important that the children have somebody for them. Like, as far as me, because I have a comprehension issue since I was a kid, my lawyer explaining stuff to me really helps. So I'm glad that her and I have that open communication, and she understands that I'm only asking questions because I want to understand what's going on and what I can do to help make things not just move along faster and get done, but just what I can do for my child. It's not even about me. Like, I just want her to be happy. I just want to be in her life so that she has that father role model, not just a stepdad. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people here's the thing that a lot of people have a misconception about that I find. I must be wired differently, because my ex has a boyfriend now. A very nice guy. Never met him. I don't care if I ever do meet him. But if I do meet the guy, I'm not going to be an asshole to him. Pardon my language, sorry. I'm not going to be rude to him. I'm going to shake the guy's hand. And as long as he's treating my daughter with respect, I have no issue with him. I don't care. He could be Bo for all I care. As long as you're treating my daughter with respect, we're never going to have an issue. Never. I'll take you to the movies. We'll go, you know, car shows, whatever. We'll hang out. And even if you don't want to be best buddies, I don't care. As long as you're respecting my daughter and her feelings and her rights and what she wants to do, there'll be no issue. But back to the judge thing, yeah, there needs to be that needs to open up again, where the lawyers talk to the children and ask the children, how are you feeling? Why are you feeling that? Oh, it's because blah, blah, blah. Well, what can we do to help you feel better? What would you like to have done? Do you want to go see daddy on every weekend, or do you want to go see daddy every other weekend? Or do you want to have the ability to call up daddy and say, listen, can you come over? I'm not feeling, you know, I'm feeling upset and I need your hug, you know, and just be able to go there and give her a hug, calm her down, and then go do something. You know what I'm saying? Just to have that ability for the child to say, this is what I want. And it's not in courts at all. I feel my child's just being completely left out of the whole. But again, I get she's only 3. But still, there's people out there that can talk to 3-year-olds, obviously better than I can, and understand what they're trying to say to get that feeling out so that it's not bottled up. It doesn't make her sick. You know what I mean? Like, just that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. And Bo, what do you think? Did you want to weigh in on this? Is that educational piece missing? You know, we're all like kind of in a busy time. You know, lawyers sometimes don't always want to, you know, spend a couple of hours with a father listening to the situation, or a mom. Let's be equal here. You know, and are they missing that time sensitive educational portion when speaking with children, even, you know, to say, hey, you know, what do you want? What are you looking for out of this, you know, agreement, this change? That's a lot of change for some children.
Absolutely. And just to tie this into what Keith was saying, that he would never recommend, because the Office of Child Lawyer is pro mother. That's exactly how it seems to a lot of us that have that involved, because we're thinking that when we get OCL involved, then our children's rights will be heard. You know, they will be put forth and say, you matter. So what you want, we will go around and do that to you. So I do agree with what Keith is saying, and he's actually one of my buds from down south. That through this Father's Rights, we've met up online for now. So I do agree with that, but in a sense, it is important to have the OCL, because then, when there is OCL, I have a person that I can communicate with and say, "Look, please ask these questions. This is what I need." Because if I don't have the OCL involved, then there's no way of getting my child to properly think of what they need to say or do of what they want. Because if the OCL is not involved, then I have to go to the mother and say, can you ask? And what do you think she's going to say? She's not going to say anything that would incriminate herself. Of course not. You know? So that's the point. And I do believe OCL should get involved. And another thing called OCL with clinical, which means then your child will have a psychiatrist or a counselor that they will meet up with the children. The unfortunate part of having this pandemic is that it's all online. So when my daughter has a separate counselor through Algoma Family Services, it's online. So who do you think can sit behind the camera looking at the child? They ask your child, is anybody in the room? No, no one's in the room. But yet, meanwhile, behind the camera, there's a parent sitting there reminding the child, oh, make sure you talk about this. Make sure you talk about how angry you are at your father and how your father did this, how your father did that. Feeding the fire, feeding the fire. What happens when you feed the fire? So that's what happens. So, yes, OCL is a necessity, but you need to be on top of it. You can't just accept the little that they do. And if it was different when this pandemic wasn't happening, then that child would be sitting face to face with the lawyer, with the counselor.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there is very little privacy anymore. Even if that child is in a room by themselves, you don't know what kind of knowledge, computer knowledge, perhaps that the parents have. Have they put a camera in the room, perhaps, or are they listening through a nanny cam, or just using, let's use safety as a concern. Well, I have a baby monitor in that child's room because I'm still concerned about their safety. And that's applauded once more, right? Of course, safety is a number one priority. Corey, you had a question you wanted to ask, and I'm more than happy to hand it over to you. What would you like to ask?
Okay. Again, parental alienation. Okay. We got to keep that on the top of our heads, guys. Now, my biggest fear of my children having a lawyer to represent them is parental alienation. I'm not there. I'm not in the picture. Like I said to the judge, I'm not even there to protect my children. I've been denied any access whatsoever to know the truth. I don't know what she's saying to them. I don't know what she's convincing them of. Like my child has told me in the last few months a lot of things that mom has said and done. A perfect example, mom said you didn't want us anymore. I saw my children about 6 or 8 weeks after we split up walking downtown. I stopped my car. She grabbed their hands and they ran. And when I questioned them about that months later, mom said that you were scared, or sorry, mom said that we had to be scared of you. You didn't want us. You were going to hurt us. So we ran because they thought they were going to chase you or you were going to chase us and blah, blah, blah. So even though my kids were seeing a counselor when they were in BC, they were still being fueled by mom and mom's new boyfriend. Dad wasn't in the picture. Dad wasn't there to protect them. Dad wasn't there to show them that you can come to me when you're in trouble or when you're hurt. And they were being hurt a lot. They were being abused in many, many, many ways. and not the seriousness, not the most serious ones, but nonetheless, verbal and mental is still a big thing. And they didn't have dad to come to say, hey, I don't like him because of this, or mom did this, or mom said this. I wasn't there to protect them. So my fear of getting your children a lawyer, and I didn't know they were free, but nonetheless, my fear of getting your children a lawyer is, how do you still deal with the alienation aspect when you're not in the picture to protect them? How? The last thing I would have done in my case was get them a lawyer. The last thing, because I knew mom's abilities. And I think if I'd have got my children a lawyer, I probably never would have seen them again, because she had them so convinced of so many bad things. Like I said, I had a child 4 hours after I picked her up saying, oh, to a waitress, please call CFS and be taken against my will. I mean, if your child says that in front of you and her grandmother to a perfect stranger in a different town, can you only imagine how many things, or how much damage mom did with alienating your child and you against you? And if you give that child a lawyer under the basis of all the alienation that this child has been programmed with, aren't you doing yourself more harm than good? Wouldn't it make sense to fight and prove the alienation versus giving your children the rights to speak in court when they've been alienated against you? That's kind of my thing.
Yeah. Now, Corey, I agree with what you're saying, but the whole point of having that OCL or just a counselor, when they're sitting face to face, especially a counselor or psychiatrist, they are trained to read body language. They are trained to read what's going on. So I hear what you're saying, and absolutely, parental alienation is very hard to prove. And that's what I said to my judge, because in my court, I keep saying parental alienation, and the judge is listening. So you're, saying, so you're trying to talk about that. That's what's happening in your case. And I'm saying, yes, but I told him it's very hard to prove parental alienation. And when the OCL is talking to my children or the counselors, it needs to be face to face, because they've never been private or alone. And if ever they've been in the room, mom has been outside listening. So therefore knows what the child is saying and knows how to change things around. So I agree, but in my case, because my child is 13, she has more knowledge. Like, I have two girls.
Yes.
One is 11 turning 12, and one is 13 right now. And the 13-year-old is actually speaking up about what she wants and is not being coerced into saying what the mother wants.
Yeah.
I think as a father, I shouldn't have to fight for 50% of rights to my own children.
Nope.
The mother should have enough knowledge and love for her children to say, we both made them. You've been a good dad. You're not abusing your child, other than, being a parent that makes mistakes. You're not physically harming the child. So it should be okay, 50-50. But that's not the case. And that's why we men have to fight for the basics, which is a shame. So shame on all the mothers, shame on all the fathers that do the alienation and make the other parent have to fight for their basic rights.
Unfortunately, we end up with this society that tends to, children can only live in one place. Unfortunately, they can only have one legal address. A lot of times, too, it should be a just a given. And I'm pretty sure you've mentioned this before, Bo, in the multiple times that I've spoken to you. It should be just a given. It is 50-50. Unfortunately, it's not like that. You actually, whoever is fortunate enough to leave the relationship with the child is more than likely going to be the temporary custodial parent, full custody, until, you can prove you're a good parent and you're not going to abuse your child, or you're actually, somebody who can make good decisions. And that's not I don't think that's appropriate. I really don't. You both went into this relationship, and let's say you spent whatever X amount of time together, whether it's hours, whether it's days, whether it's months, whether it's years, it really doesn't matter. You chose to take that chance with that person, and now you have to face the consequences of that decision. If that resulted in a child, so be it. That's, this is the end result, 50-50. Sorry, but that's how it is. Perhaps if that were the case, a lot of people would think twice about not using a condom, not using birth control, possibly going out and getting drunk and doing something that you might regret a little bit later. I think our society has created a normalcy or set a precedent that, you can go out and be as irresponsible as you want to be. And that is your right and freedom. Don't get me wrong. But, you still have consequences to those choices. Everybody does. That's a normalcy of life, and the amount of time that it takes as well. And this is a perfect segue into this topic. I wanted to ask as our final question for everyone, what do you believe is the harm or the good in these things taking time? I remember my ex-husband now, when we had to go to court for his son, it took 5 years. Isn't that harming the child? Like, this is not a good idea to take this long to determine a child's fate. Like, that's not right. Let's weigh in. What do we all think? Go ahead, Bo.
I'm going to start this off because this actually, the same thing happened when I had one of my court sessions. Like I said, I'm an emotional person. I'm passionate, and I'm a normal person. I do get angry, and because it's taking so long, it puts such a toll on my mental health, my physical health. And if that's happening to me, I can only imagine what's happening to my children, which are much younger and don't know how to process these feelings, especially when they're in an environment where it's hostile, that everybody in that household is saying, no, your dad is bad, your father is bad. Yet I was good enough to raise the other children that are now against me. I was good enough to pay for whatever they needed and do whatever they needed. So that's taking a big toll. And when I had my court session, I was telling His Honor that this is taking too long and it's changing everything. Before, we used to be happy. Everything was going good. And he's a great judge. But he told me, sir, it doesn't matter what was. It matters what's happening right now. Which that was very upsetting to me, because for me, it's what was that should have been considered, because that was before everything started, before court. Before court, I was good enough to be able to have my children all the time. She had an open door policy that I could go at any time. She would invite me into her house to come and sleep. And at times she would even want me to sleep in her bed beside her to wait for the kids to wake up. But now all of a sudden, because of court, things have changed. So that is very key. That is very important. And that's why, in my case, it's taking so long. Corey's case didn't take as long as mine. Bubba's is taking longer. So everything is dragging on. And the more it drags on, the worse it gets. And that's what these lawyers are hoping to do.
That's a little crazy. I wanted to address this comment from David. OLC said it was better for my children to lose their father than to travel through Toronto on the 401 to the other side of Toronto. My God, that is absolutely ludicrous, especially living in such a populated area. I'm sure just to see dad was probably not the only time that they would have to drive on the 401 to get to the other side of Toronto, I'm sure. But, getting back to this, of course, I do think that, this family court system taking so long is damaging to not only mental health. And of course, Keith, I have seen your comments. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate all of them. But absolutely, the family court business is exactly that. It's a business, and it's definitely feeding money into the justice system because, hey, you're paying for it all, right? So, Corey, I saw that you had some comments. What?
Well, first of all, I have to sympathize with Bo big time because when I spoke to my judge, the judge in BC spoke to her lawyer, and he was all about what was, not what is now. So I sympathize for you because she tried to play, oh, we have a life in BC, we're a family, they have a new dad, they've got new friends, they've got new school, blah blah blah. The judge said it doesn't matter. They're residents of Alberta. That's where their home is, that's where their school is. Oh, but Your Honor, we've been here for however long. But and she lied. She tried to say they were there for 11 months when they were there for 5. She never even had the kids in school. The kids were isolated in a shop. They didn't even live in a home. They lived in an automotive shop upstairs in a foyer and slept on 2 little beds in next to the couch. And none of that was ever made aware to the judge. But thankfully, the judge that I was dealing with, he was not what is now. He was what was. The children need to have what they had, and you've taken that away from them. There's no justifiable reason for father to not be there to protect his own children. When Family Services was investigating, you ran to another province. When he gained access and custody, you ran to another province, and then you tried to point the finger at him and have him criminally charged and so on and so on and so on. And they just didn't buy it. It was like, no, we want the children to have what was. It's not about what it is now. And when I self-represented in criminal court because she alleged an assault that happened 6 months before we broke up, but didn't report said assault until after I ended the relationship. Now, the officer, oh yes, we are hell-bent to charge you. But the judge in court, well, I just don't understand how come if she was so afraid of abuse that it wasn't reported while you were together, and why she didn't leave, and why it was only reported after you left and from another province, and on and on and on and on and on. Like, there was just so many suspicions raised that everybody looked at what was, not what is. What was really happening? What kind of life did the children have? Who really did do what? It was never what's going on now. But anyway, the point I wanted to make of that, you asked about the time frame. I kind of had the number of 1 year in my brain. I was convinced that if she was gone with the children away from me for more than 1 year, no judge is going to send those children back here. They are established, they have a life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the magic number, 11 and 1/2 months to the day I got my children back, like 2 weeks shy of a year. And, I still believe, like, the longer this stuff goes on, the more damaging it is for the children. Never mind what we go through. Never mind what we go. We're adults. We got to suck it up and take it. But the longer your child is away from the family that used to be, the less chance of them coming back, granted by a judge, and the less chance they're going to want to come back because they are going to be accustomed and used to what they have now. They were calling him dad because they were told to. And when I got my kids back, for the first few hours, I was Corey. I wasn't dad. They wouldn't call me dad. By morning, I was dad, and we love you and miss you. When my children got home, this is the thing about the time frame. When my children got home and they went into their bedrooms and everything was exactly how they left it. Nothing was taken away. Nothing was destroyed. Nothing was, it was all still there. It's like my little girls, it's like the light bulb went on. Mom lied. Mom lied to us about all of this. Mom said dad would have gotten rid of this. Dad doesn't care. This will be gone. Even something as simple as my one child had a little money box. Every time her piggy bank got full, she put it in this box. And she had two $5 bills in that box. And her mom convinced her that I would have spent that money. When she got home, she got on a stool and she reached for that money box out of her closet, and the two $5 bills were still there. She knew. And they were so happy to be home. It still brings tears to my eyes when I think about that day, when they walked in the door and they saw everything. Everything was what it was. And that's so important. It's not that you're judged both. That's just so wrong. It should never be what it is now. It should always be what it was. What were these children taken away from and why? That's the real question, not what the children have today. Who cares what they have today? They would have today with you if they would have been allowed to be with you. What was is what matters. And I guess I was lucky. Maybe I was just lucky and I always had the right judge, I guess. I don't know. But, again, I always spoke first. I always raised doubt. I always asked questions. And it was never what it is. It was always what it was. And I got them. I got my little girls now.
Yeah, that's true. You had the right judges. I've ran into different judges, one's not so good, one's, but I've been lucky. It's been pretty good. But one thing I wanted to mention is that for anybody that's going through this, if you're the first time going through this and there's a temporary order set out, appeal it. Don't accept it. Appeal it right away. Because if a judge makes an interim custody order, don't accept it. That's the mistake I made, because they really don't know you. And they don't know the kind of parent you are. So what I would suggest is, if anybody's got that interim order, I believe you have 30 days. I'm not sure, but you have 30 days to appeal and put in there that, no, we're not going to try this 1 week on, or 1 day here, 1 day there. Why don't we try it on a trial basis of having 50-50? So always appeal and push for that. Because in my case, I had my children all the time. I had them at times 7 days. The mother would be out shopping, do her own thing, whatever she wanted to do. She would do it because she knew that I would always take the children, because we were always together, whether I'd be at her home with the children or they would be at my place. So I had them most of the time. And then when the judge made an order of, oh, you're only good enough to be a Tuesday and a Wednesday father until Thursday of early morning before school, and then every other weekend. No, don't accept that, guys. Go for 50-50, push for it, appeal every order. Don't accept it and don't take it sitting down. If you're self-represented, you have to push yourself to get this done.
So, something that was mentioned, Keith mentioned in the comments again, that nobody can leave a province without a court order with the children. I'm going to do you one a little bit better. You actually can't even leave your district. So we are in the district of Algoma here. You're technically not supposed to leave the children outside of the district with the children. That can be considered kidnapping, abandonment, those types of things. Of course, a lot of times too, depending on which judge you have, which cop you have, a lot of times they say, well, until it comes time for your visit, they have until X day and X time to be there with your children. They can go wherever they want. You can really, really fight that. And I always, always, always suggest people that, you have that put in your court order right away. That's the first thing you ask for, no leaving the district. Before we get back to you, Corey, because I know that you really want to talk on this, Dawn, what do you think about the time that it takes to get, things settled? Let's get this, taken care of quickly. 5 to 7 years, battling in court, or even 3 years. I don't know that this is a good idea for children. What do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of hard for my situation. given that I had access to the kid whenever I wanted when we first split up. And then some accusations were made because I had made a phone call to a certain company to make some report. Once that had happened, the accusations came out because the individual was mad at me for making that phone call. And then visits with my child ceased to exist for 7 months. Got to see her for 2 hours at Christmas and then didn't see her again till before my birthday. But that issue is hindering my family court because I'm trying to fight the criminal thing. So the judge for the family court is just like, well, there's really not much I can do other than give you supervised visits via the family services. So I'm like, well, I'll take what I can get right now because what am I going to do? You're not letting me do anything with the family because of my criminal. Well, found out that in my criminal case that the lawyer was not interested at all in what I had to say. He didn't care if I was innocent, nothing. Pressured me into taking a deal, which I'm not impressed with. That's why I'm getting rid of him, getting a new lawyer, so we can get that done. And then once that's thrown out of court, family court is a breeze at that point because I want full access to my child. I want her to be able to stay with me if she wants to come sleep over. I want her to be able to stay with her aunt because her aunt and her grandmother on my side have been basically pushed to the side. Like none of my family gets to see her unless they like finally just say, fine, whatever, the mother can stay here with her and watch us while we're playing with her. You know what I mean? Like it's that part has gotten ridiculous where the mother thinks she has all the control. She doesn't, and she doesn't realize that. So I'm waiting for the day that little glass house or whatever she's living in or thinks she's in, where she's got all the power, shatters. And then she realizes she doesn't have all the power, and neither do I. I'm not saying I have all the power neither. I'm not a perfect parent. I've gotten upset. Have I ever abused or slapped my kid? No, because put the child down, take a breather, pick the child back up, and then console the child. Do what you got to do to make, But that's my issue is trying to deal with this criminal thing, which is not totally false. Like it still blows my mind. So as soon as I get that dealt with, like I said, the family court is going to be a simple breeze because the judge, she wants to help me, and I can tell that she wants to help me, but her hands are tied right now because of this criminal thing. She can't just say, oh, yeah, you can see your kid whenever you want and take her wherever you want because of these accusations, right? So, yeah, my hands are kind of like this, and I'm just kind of dealing with it right now. Has it affected me mentally? Oh, yeah, big time, because I don't get to see my kid as often as I want. And I spent 2 years from her birth, 2 years raising her because the mother went back to work. So we had a very special bond, right? And yeah, it's kind of hard to not see her. But in the good news, doing these supervised visits with the family services people, I got a phone call yesterday. How would you like to see your child every week at this day at this time? And I said, well, that's kind of a silly question, bro. I would love to see my kid every single week. He's like, I read through your file. He goes, I honestly don't understand why you're here, but I get why you're here, why you have to come here. So yeah, when I get back from vacation in a week, we'll look at the schedule and get you in every week at this time. So that being said, the judge ordered that, plus ordered the mother to set up and arrange, and it's through her mother and somebody else, to do supervised visits as well every single week. So if this goes through, I'll get to see my kid 2 times for an hour, could be more, till we get to court and I can get that hired, more time. So I'll get to see her every week, twice a week, which is, I think, going to be good for her, because I know when she sees me, she absolutely loses her mind right now, in happiness and excitement to get to see daddy, right? So fingers crossed this criminal thing goes away, and then I'll be good to go. I'll be happy.
Awesome. And so let's start with some final thoughts. Corey, I know you're so anxious to talk. You have so much to say. So go ahead. I'll give you the time for your final thoughts. Go ahead.
You know what? To be honest with you, I actually forgot why I raised my hand. Somebody said something and it made me think of something, but it's our listening to Bubba talk there. I've already forgot what my point was there.
Okay.
The only thing I can really touch on based on what Bubba was talking about, I too was dealing with criminal allegations. I self-represented as well with that. And when the criminal allegations were brought up in family court, I simply stood there and I looked at the judge and I says, where's the proof? I said, the burden of proof is on her. Where is the proof? How can you deny me access to my children simply because of what somebody says and then runs away to another province when nobody believes her?
Right.
You know, as soon as Child Family Services started looking into her because I heard some things about him, she played the COVID card. Oh, you can't come see us right now. We're isolating because we have symptoms. And then, back to the online thing, right? So then they were meeting with Family Services on webcam. But who's to say she's not on the other side of the computer, shaking her head no or nodding her head yes?
Yeah.
And I raised that in court as well when Child Family Services appeared in court. So the judge, when she was playing the card of, oh, but we got to get the criminal charges dealt with before he can have access to his children, I whipped out my disclosure for my criminal charges and I physically handed it to the duty counsel and I said, you open this book of disclosure and you tell me where in that disclosure that it says that I was ever in any way, shape, or form a threat to my children based on what she's alleging me having done to her. Mm-hmm. And so the judge looked at duty counsel and asked a question, and I don't remember what the question was, and duty counsel responded simply, I don't know. And then the judge looked at Child Family Services and said, is there anything about this man that says that he can't be with his children? And they said, no. There's nothing other than this criminal charge, which has yet to be proven in court. And because Crystal hadn't ran to BC yet, but this was my third appearance in court, she'd already violated the first 2 orders of weekends, the judge said, let the children go back to father's house. And if she wants to prove her allegations, she can come back to court to do so. And I was given full custody based on the fact that I said to the judge, where's the proof? Why does a criminal allegation have to be proven for me to see my children? Where's the proof? If I have to prove myself to you that I'm a fit parent, which I was for the first 6 years of the last 6 years of our 8-year relationship, why is it that because I ended the relationship, that all of a sudden qualifies me to not be a parent to my children? Mm-hmm. I said, where is the proof? And the judge had no choice but to agree. And again, if I would have had a lawyer, this wouldn't have happened. The first lawyer I spoke with and duty counsel that I spoke to in my first 2 court appearances both said the same thing. Get supervised visits, prove yourself innocent. Or sorry, prove to them that you are a parent. And I said, no. I said, why should I have to prove that I'm anything? And I refused to accept supervised visits. And I was given my weekend access the first 2 times I appeared in court, and then sole custody the third time. And I'm not going to say all because I refused to accept, but simply because I refused to let a judge say to me that I had to prove to him that I could parent, and that I had to prove to him or to prove to criminal court that I didn't assault my partner prior to where, burden of proof. Why do I have to be innocent and she doesn't have to prove a damn thing? I never accepted no. I never accepted, well, try this instead. I always argued argued wisely to get what I want, using the right choice of words. And again, burden of proof. I said, I even used the words, are we not innocent until proven guilty in this country? Rather than just assuming that because she says I did something, you're going to deny my children until I prove innocence in a trial, which could take 18 months to do so. Not to mention, guys, if this matters, when my trial came, the date of my trial, she was a witness. She had 5 months to prepare. On trial day, she didn't show up. And the prosecution actually asked the judge, oh, she can't come because it's winter and she's afraid to drive. Can we postpone for 3 months or allow her to appear remotely? And before he even finished answering or asking the judge the question, the judge didn't even have an opportunity to think about it. I yelled out, no. When I pled guilty, or sorry, not guilty, and set a trial date, the judge that did that hearing spoke to me, and his exact words were, you are self-representing. There will be no excuses. There will be no delays. Trial date is February 5th. Be here. Be prepared for trial. There will be no extensions. And I said to the judge, why the hell does she get one? I said, this is just her way of prolonging me from having access to my kids. And then I told the judge about how there's already been 3 orders that she violated and yada, yada, yada. And the judge said, this is all one-handed clapping, Corey. This is just your story. We haven't heard hers, blah, blah, blah. And I pulled out my big folder and I handed the prosecutor every court order and affidavit. And he sat down and read them while the judge sat there quietly for 5 minutes. And he stood up and he looked at the judge and he said, Your Honor, we're going to withdraw the charges. All because, once again, you're using the system, and I proved that she was using the system by being prepared. That's all.
Yep, 100%. You do have to come prepared. Dawn, final thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Corey more. Just be prepared. Make sure you have your paperwork with you. Make sure you are not missing paperwork. Make sure you understand what's going to be happening. It comes back to the educate yourself. Yes, we need to educate our children on what's going on, yes. But you need to be educated so you can educate them. If you don't have a clue what you're talking about when you show up to court, you look like a fool. And are they going to believe what a fool says? Or an educated person? Educated, I mean, as to what's going on. They're going to believe the educated person more than they're going to believe a guy that shows up in a ripped shirt, baggy pants, not knowing what he's talking about, got one piece of paper that says, don't be late. Court's at, 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like, you be prepared. If you show up in a nice pair of pants and a good t-shirt even, again, take the ball cap off on your way into the courtroom and recognize the judge. In our court system here, it's a slight little, when you come into the courtroom, take your seat where you're supposed to, wait till you're supposed to be called, then proceed with what you got to do. And when you leave the courtroom, same thing. Recognize the judge, walk out quietly, because there's always stuff going on. It's all about respect. If you show the respect to the judge, I've seen, I don't know about these two gentlemen, but what I've noticed is if you show a little respect and have a little knowledge of what's going on, the judge is going to listen to you. But if you walk in disrespectful, your hat on, like I said, that one piece of paper that says don't be late for court, it's at 9 o'clock, you know what I mean? It's just about that. A simple knowing what you're talking about, understanding what you're talking about, calling the BS, like Corey said, call the BS before that person even has a chance to talk. Like he said, yeah, I'm not the best father in the world, but hey, I try. I've never been a dad before. This is my first kid for me. first kid. Do I know what I'm doing? No, I have no clue. I'm going off of what my dad and my mom and my grandparents taught me while I was growing up. That's there's no manual for your child when it's born. Here, this is everything you need to do. This is all the programming you need to put into your child, like a computer. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna make mistakes. When you do make a mistake, own up to it. I've let my voice get a little loud one time, and I scared my daughter when she was younger. And I apologized to her. I said, "I'm sorry, honey. Daddy should never have done that. Can I give you a hug so we can make it better?" You know, you got to learn from your mistakes. Even when you were a kid, you did the same thing. You jumped out of a tree, it hurt. Did you do it again? Well, in my case, it took me 2 times. Okay, I was a little slow. But still, education, read your books. Like Corey, he had his book of everything that happened. Keep everything. Even if it's a note passed to you from your lawyer, you keep that. Or a note from her lawyer to your lawyer. Hey, can I have a copy of that for my personal file? Your lawyer should do it for you. You keep stuff, read it, educate yourself on your trial, know your judge, know how your judge likes to be talked. So go in early and sit and watch how the judge reacts to certain things so that you get a feel of what this judge is going to do if you get a little upset, show a little emotion. It's not a bad thing to show a little emotion to a certain point. Don't get crazy, you know, and all and your fist clenched. Don't do that. Don't ever do that in court. You'll be in handcuffs quicker than you know it. But and if you need to take a minute while you're speaking, just say, I need to gather my thoughts here for a second. 1 second, and take a breath, and then continue. But don't disrespect the judge or a lawyer or a prosecutor. It'll get you nowhere, other than what you don't want. But I rambled on. I'm sorry. Just giving my thoughts.
That's okay. That's okay. That's what this is all about, right? And we're trying to give those tips and those tricks. Bo, final thoughts.
Well, both these gentlemen made great points, and you know it's interesting how both these gentlemen, prior to the breakup or court, they had no issues. They were not charged with anything. They were not falsely accused of anything. So basically, what happened was lawyers know the game very well. So when the victim goes in, the lawyer says, do this, 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 because it's a delay tactic. They realize that the longer they delay your system, your court case, the more chance will be that when things change, you will have your kids. So if they weren't in this, they wouldn't have to be fighting in criminal court first and then family. So for whoever's going through all this, know that it's a delay tactic. Don't lose your cool because that is so key. You have to mentally be prepared. When you're going through this, you're going to be drained mentally, emotionally, physically. Everything around your life will fail if you don't keep your mind up. Because even your friends are going to doubt you. And that is hard. Your friends, your family, people that have known you for so many years will doubt you due to these false allegations. So make sure you stay in there. Eat properly, exercise, read up. Knowledge is key. You know what? I get it. We don't have thousands of dollars to spend on lawyers. So educate yourself, read up. Another thing, try not to let things get delayed because even though you're not a lawyer, their lawyer may ask for certain things to delay it. No, stand firm. When you're in the court system, yes, it's okay to show emotion, but it's not okay to show anger. Do not be violent. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to cry, whatever the case is. You know yourself better. But don't go in there sobbing, trying to win the judge with sympathy. No, win the judge with your respect, with your knowledge, with your evidence. Don't make the mistake that I made. And because I'm an emotional person, I made an affidavit that was 1,000+ pages. And that is considered a dump truck effect, where you throw everything in to show that, hey, you're innocent, that you can look at anything. Don't do that. Have it all. That's fine. Do whatever you need to, but submit key points as your affidavit, as your evidence, but hold on to that. Because when you throw out saying that I have this piece of evidence, you don't physically have to show it. You just say that you have those evidence. And then when the judge says, okay, show me the evidence, or the opposing counsel says, okay, I like to see this evidence, make sure you have copies of what you're saying for everybody. So just rely on that. And just know that your life will be turned upside down when you go through this. So keep your chin up. There's a lot of support groups. I've actually, because of the article that went in prior to COVID starting, I've had a lot of fathers reach out to me. I've had fathers from down south, fathers from the States, fathers in my hometown. Bubba is one of them. They've reached out to me, and we're a support for each other.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not anybody but just a guy going through hard times. That when I see another father going through the same thing, you know what? I'm all ears. They're welcome to come over. We can meet up somewhere. Reach out to people, because you are not alone. We are all in this together. And you know what? As much as we want to bash women for doing this, they are going through this as well. So you know what? It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. We're all going through the same thing. More men than women are going through this. But please reach out to each other. Mental health is very important.
Yes.
There's been many fathers that have passed away by taking their own life. There has been fathers that have been murdered. There have been children that have been murdered because of all this, because of parental alienation, because of the court system, because the mother does not want to give their children to the father. So stay strong, guys. You're not in this alone. Please reach out.
Absolutely. And that's key. I have seen a psychiatrist myself, just, and a lot of them will say, peer support groups are probably some of the major things in today's society that really do help out. When you have a peer support group, it's probably one of the biggest helps. I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up today. I want to say thank you to everybody in our audience who have put out questions, comments. We always love to have those, especially this is a topic that is so important right now. The family court system has a lot of cleanup to do, especially here in Ontario. Corey, you've known other provinces. It sounds as though they're a little bit more up to date. If you ask me, I think they're a little more progressive, and maybe Ontario needs to take a look at that and go, hey, this is what we should be doing. Going on, in the future, I do want to chat a little bit about COVID-19 and, of course, how this has affected the family court system, because a lot of mothers are using that excuse. I have seen people who co-parent very well and saying, okay, well, please you've been out of town. I would like a negative COVID test before you see the children, which is more than reasonable if you ask me. But sadly, we're out of time on this topic. We will certainly continue this going forward. We love to show this, and thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming and discussing this very, very, very important topic. And we hope to get some updates very soon.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. And again, everyone, have a great day, great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you soon again.